Hi there, I'm Katie Cat, and this is our Wednesday AstroTarot. We have 7 cards for today, and I'm going to start off with just reading the cards and then follow it up with talking about the astrology transits that the cards today are highlighting, just so that people who are interested in the astrology aspect can have an understanding of that a little separate than the cards themselves. The opening energy that we have on the table today is the 9 of Cups. So there's some kind of completion around some emotional experience. It's like gathering together what worked and what didn't work, or reaping what we've sown, right? And what we've been able to gather from it, whether it's good or bad, and what we learned from that experience itself, because we have this sense of completion around some emotional matter or some project that we had put some emotional effort toward. It's like, you finally get to the day, and then you get to see, what you would have done differently, or what went well and what worked, right? There's some finality around some project or some experience that's of emotional nature. The challenge that showed up is the King of Wands. Now, the King of Wands is an energy of someone who can be pretty intense, quite angry, rules by force rather than through the engagement of the heart. And that is the challenge. There's either someone in our lives that has presented themselves that way, that's been kind of very intense by way of their ego nature and, kind of harsh, and that has been challenging in our experience, or we're working with that aspect of ourself in regard to how do we deal with a situation. Are we going to try to dominate a situation, or are we going to lead it from a place of presence? Because ultimately, the King of Wands is that energy of Leo, and leading and going after things creatively, right, by way of the heart. Now, it always reminds me of, like that authoritarian figure or that father figure who, comes into the room, throwing a fit and like yells at everybody and commands for everybody to do as they're told. Or the father figure that comes into the room, sits quietly at the table, and everyone just kind of quiets down because of the presence in the room, right? There's these two energies that are accessible by this character here, and it's quite likely that the challenge that we are dealing with is the more intense version of that character. The way through that scenario is learning from our experience, gathering together ourselves or something, right, and taking it in a process. We see that this person is leaving or walking away from some scenario where there's a grouping of people. So, either this can represent that person who's been kind of angry and intense, that they had some kind of trickster like or deceitfulness about them, and just kind of letting that person go. Or it also may be speaking to this energy of, learning through that experience and trying to see outside of the black and white of things, so that you can actually gather together what you've learned. Because the person that's in this card has 5 swords in their hand, but there's 2 swords that they are leaving behind. So they're walking away from the black and white of things, right? They're walking away from the good and bad of things, and kind of seeing the experience for what it was. Now, the ultimate outcome is interesting. It came in by the Page of Cups, which, if you've been watching my videos, this card has been showing up quite a bit. But some reflection and turning over a situation that's of emotional nature, and really, going through the doorway of that experience. It's clarified by the Fool card, further clarified by the 8 of Wands, and then a single wand. So some big change is coming to this situation that isn't really in your hands, right? And it's providing an experience which is really asking you to follow your heart and follow your own inner guidance. It may seem like a lot of things get up in the air and are really in a process, and they're in motion because of this 8 of Wands. Things are in a lot of ways subject to timing, but it ultimately comes down to a clarity of some kind of new beginning or initiating some kind of new project. Now, when we talk about what's being referenced right now by way of astrology, we have a few players on the table that it's speaking to. We have, of course, the King of Wands, which I had foreshadowed is referencing Leo. Leo, or in the sign of Leo, we currently have the planet of Mars and the planet of Venus. You can actually see them in the sky. Let's see, with the way that it is going to be right after sunset. You'll be able to see Leo. You'll be able to see Mars and Venus in the sky in the constellation of Leo. And they're in a square relationship with the energy that's over in Taurus, which interestingly enough is also on the table by way of the Fool. So squares, mathematically, of course, are like 90-degree angles, and they create some kind of challenge or some kind of friction in our lives, which is causing us to act and to respond to it. Now, challenges, people, often are like, oh, challenge. But challenges are what show us what we're capable of. They show us what we want to rise to. They show us what is important, because you feel some kind of stirring inside of you, which is calling you to act, right? If it wasn't challenging you, then you'd be numb. And so I argue that, being challenged is actually a better angle of evolution than if things are easy, because if things are too easy, then you don't really get to see what you feel called to rise up to and engage with and respond to. And so it's like, where are you called to act? And these are in the anchors of wherever Leo is in your natal chart and wherever Taurus is in your natal chart, because those are the 90-degree square angle energies that are on the table today. We also have the energy of Pisces on the table by way of the Page of Cups. Now we have Saturn in Pisces right now. Saturn is in sextile to Jupiter, which is in square relationship to Venus, particularly. By sign, we have Uranus at like 20 degrees right now, so it's not in exact square to Mars or Venus, but Venus is in square relationship to Jupiter, and also that Jupiter is in sextile relationship to Saturn. What's interesting, though, is that energy in Pisces, where Saturn is at, Saturn is getting ready to go retrograde here in just a few days. And so it'll be sitting at the beginning degrees of Pisces for a little while. So we'll be in this place of review and sobriety and responsibility in the area of Pisces, which I ultimately believe is going to be influencing that anchor of Jupiter up in Taurus, which is highlighting where we need to create these new foundations in our lives, because Taurus is that stabilizing factor of resources in our lives. So we have those 3 or 4 different astrological kind of influences showing up by way of transit in the reading today. Of course, they're going to speak to you more specifically wherever you see Leo and Taurus and Pisces in your chart. If you're interested in learning more about that, reach out to me at rootsofalchemy@gmail.com, or check out my website, rootsofalchemy.com, for my services and my products and my art. I hope you are well. I know the lighting's kind of weird because we're at the noontime hour, and so I have no idea how bright or visible this video will be, but I wanted to get a message out there and send you a hello and a lot of love, and I hope you're having a good day. Bye for now.